It's the big leagues, trying to max the ears if you can't hear me. The players that made it, they kiddie for second, they hop in the block with me. Hey, y'all better fear me, follow me like a fairy.
And we're back with episode 2, or part 2, for the MGU thing that we do. That was a lot of rhyming.
Okay, Dr. Seuss.
It is Christmas time. It is Christmas time. It is Christmas Eve, so happy Christmas Eve to you, Mr. Octo.
Yes, happy holidays to you.
Oh, that too. Yeah, because not everybody celebrates Christmas, and that's cool too. And everybody listening too. I hope everybody's staying safe with the world going crazy. And I'm going to have a rule. I was actually thinking about this before we started recording, and I didn't even go over it with you. Rule: no talking about real world stuff, because I think people listen to stuff like this to escape all of that crap. So
this is about my intro last time.
No, not at all. No. I was actually thinking it was an interesting introduction, but I loved it. No, I was just, man, I was with some family yesterday, and I went in and I was just like, I don't want to talk about any of this stuff. And we all know what we're talking about, but we're not going to say its name. It's like Voldemort.
Okay.
I said it. No, but I don't want to talk about that stuff. It's so depressing, right? You know. So we're not going to talk about that stuff, but we're going to talk about a lot of fun things. We got into 8 of the 16 teams last time on episode of MGU whatever, and the response was really good, actually. So hopefully this, the analysis is about the same quality, and we're going to go over the other 8 teams, but we're going to add a fun little thing at the end. We're going to rank our top 5. Which we didn't do last time. We're trying not to give away.
We didn't have all the teams.
No, yes, like our top 5 of the top 8 that we just did. No, but like we are trying not to give away our top 5 while we're doing these right now. So if you can tell which ones we like and which ones we don't really like as much, spoilers, I guess. But we'll try our best to hide it. But we're gonna go over the top 5, and we're gonna call those power rankings. And we don't want to rate the lower end because we think everybody has a great team. So without further ado, let's hop into it. The first team we're going to go over in part 2 is the Sunny Shore Battle Federation, the SBF. Player representing is HC Shark. Very cool team that was drafted. I look at this team and I see, obviously you see a sand mode. There's no question there with the extra
I see a
drill.
Berserker in the Quillfish slot too.
We see what we want to see. And I actually, if you had to pick 2 opposite Pokemon, which should be a segment that we have in the future, is like, what's the opposite of Excadrill? And then you pick something, yeah, that's an opposite. I think Berserker and Quillfish are quite opposites. One is immune to the other.
Levels. For the record, literally twice when looking at this graphic, I was like, oh, wishy-washy Berserker, love it. Takes me back, but it's not, and never was Berserker in that slot. Quillfish. I got it through my head finally, but just wanted to share a little behind the scene that I made.
Well, it's like me saying Runerigus is Reuniclus. Understandably so, but I'm like deleting this. I'm not reading this because we do have a few notes here. We don't have a ton of notes. We like to just kind of have it all natural. So, but yeah, I mentioned sand. I feel like sand mode is really, really good. A Gigalith setting sand over the T-Tower option, I really like, because I remember prepping against Gigalith, and its speed is so low. It's kind of comparable to that Venucole strat, and what makes Venucole better than Ninetales Soar? I don't know what's
well, I'm not too keen on those name mashups anyway, so we can just say Ninetales Sun.
Yeah, Venutails kind of works, but again, no, it doesn't. But what the benefit of having the slow and the fast is your opponent, to counter the fast double speed from the weather, you can't really set Trick Room on it, because now you have something incredibly slow like Torkoal and or Gigalith.
Exactly.
Not and or, but it's or. You're not going to run both. Yeah. It's just, what do you do, right? So I really like Gigalith in the sand mode.
Gigalith has less weaknesses. I think that can also be a plus. Um, but so big question: is it redundant to have two Sandrush sweepers in Dracozolt and uh, Excadrill?
See, that's a good question. I was looking at that a little earlier, and I went, you know what? I think Dracozolt can, the fact that it can be run a couple different ways, and same thing with Excadrill with Moldbreaker. I think Moldbreaker
Yeah.
is one of the most undervalued abilities. I actually made a video on it in a long time ago. A lot of it was information that I got from you, so
I know.
surprise. But Moldbreaker is just so valuable to have on a team, right? Like
Yeah.
when you have something with Levitate, like just max quaking a
Levitative.
Rotom. Like max tweaking a Rotom, you think you're safe, but you know, oh, I forgot about Moldbreaker, and when you react like that, you're dead. So I think Mold and Hustle too, not to mention like
Mhm.
on the Dracozolt before it got the hidden ability in the expansion. I forget which one it was,
Sandrush is the hidden ability.
but which expansion was it released in? Was it
Oh,
Isle of Armor or was it?
should be Isle of Armor because that was when the ability patch was introduced.
Ooh, good point. Yeah, so that's exactly what it came out to. Yeah, and
Oh,
same
wait a second. No, that can't be right because
the
you
hidden ability patch came out.
the ability patch you get in Crown Tundra. Whoops. Ability Capsule was a I don't even
Quality of
get
life
that in
thing.
Isle of Armor. Yeah, so it could have been Crown Tundra, but I seem to recall a lot of usage in well, Series 6 is also before. No, Series 6 was after.
Series 6 had all the bands, and I think that's when Dracozolt was probably the best at the time. Because I think it was just people were trying to grasp things that, you know, to find alternatives to what were banned in that series. And I think
Yeah.
Dracozolt filled that role really nicely. And like, yeah. By the way, have you ever tried to grind in game in Sword and Shield for that hidden ability ability hidden? What's it called?
Uh,
I forget.
ability patch.
It's ridiculous. It's like 200 points. You have to do like that. It's a lot of fun, by the way, if anyone's done that. The raid adventures.
Oh, I don't remember which way it goes, but you can exchange the ore from one DLC area to the other.
You
So
can.
yeah, but I think it goes from Crown Tundra to Isle of Armor because it's a lot harder, theoretically speaking, to like the quantity you get is much lower when you're awarded ore from the
Mm-hmm.
Isle of Armor, so it probably goes from Crown Tundra to Isle of Armor. But if it goes the other way, that would make it easier. I don't know, 200 points is a lot, but you also get a lot of points for doing the Dynamax adventures. It is pretty
I don't.
hard to get the
Yeah.
points any other way, though. And if you're playing with somebody who's AFK, they never get booted. So literally every single turn that you don't end the fight, it's going to max time, and that really drags it out.
Mm-hmm. They do take a while, and they're a lot of fun. I just remember like I hatched a shiny score bunny once. One
Uh,
of the only shinies that I've ever actually hatched. And it had the blaze ability, and I was so mad. I was like, "Are you kidding me?" But
oh, then you have to get the capsule, yeah.
yeah, so I
Or the
got the
patch.
one. Yeah, I got the one. Did all the EV training and stuff, and it was just
Mm.
I was really really happy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm never doing that again. That took way too long. But yeah, Cinderace. Yeah, we did talk about Cinderace fitting on a few different teams. But one of the first things that stands out to me on this team, obviously the sand mode, but holy ground weakness.
Um, I believe 6 out of 11, which is more than 50%.
Yeah, why not? Like, if you're prepping against this team, I guess you could do it. And one of the things about that I tell people when they're doing their draft prep is if you're gonna have that many weaknesses of one, you better have immunities slash resistances on the team. And
Right.
unfortunately, I don't see many. I see an immunity in the Mandibuzz and a resist in the Serena. So I,
Yeah.
I think that's some. I don't think it's enough. 6 to 2 is not a good ratio. So I also don't think you can completely make one move and completely abolish, the big issue or the elephant in
Right.
the room on this team. But I do think this team is good enough to get past its one weakness because not every
Yes.
team in Draft League is going to have like major strong earthquake users or earth power and things like that, and high horsepower and all that stuff. Not every team's gonna have that. It's common, but not
Even
every
if they
team's
do,
gonna.
yeah, the Pokemon who use it might be especially weak to a Pokemon who you have. Like Steel types typically get good ground moves, but Salazzle can, in some cases, rip through them. And
Mm-hmm.
like Excadrill is weak to ground, but Excadrill is also really fast and hits really hard. Same for Dracozolt. So there are some alternatives. Ground types, if you got Trick Room, Wishy-Washy, can bulldoze. Well, not the move bulldoze. um, so yeah, I think there's counterplay, so it's not game ending to have that many. I mean, even like Vitor had 6 rock weaknesses and still had a really good season. He
He did.
eventually made trades, but like before he made them, he had 6 rock weaknesses,
Mm-hmm.
and he made it through fine. So I know it's not a game breaker. It's just yeah, Max Quake is really good. Earthquake is really good. So it's just unfortunate if you have that many weaknesses. But yeah, so reducing one of those weaknesses by one does seem good. I just thought of maybe also like as far as natural speed goes, it's really just Salazzle. Maybe somebody up there who has speed control. Um,
Yeah,
up there
I
is
get.
in speed.
Yeah, like you do have access to Tailwind on this team as well. So like it's a bulky Tailwind setter. It's not fast. So you're not going to get Tailwind up. Like Tailwind Protect's going to be probably the play most of the time, or
Mm,
setting up Tailwind for the back row is probably going to be the way this team runs.
right.
I see a lot of different modes on this team, and I personally, like as we mentioned, the ground weakness, commonality, yeah, the common
Yeah.
ground weakness on this team. I think eliminating one but not making a major change to this team would be really nice, because I think every single mon on this team has a nice role.
Yeah.
Sneaky Mimikyu, by the way. I think Mimikyu is a really, really good pick. But to make a move, remove a ground weakness, and not change the team drastically, I think in the B tier, Slowking for Slowbro is actually, I think that could work really nicely, because a lot of ground moves are physical, and Slowbro does have a very,
Mm,
very nice defense. So
right.
obviously Earth Power is less commonly spread. That's why I think Earth Power is so valuable. But I think just a little move like that, like nothing crazy, would kind of set you up for the rest of the season. And 5 ground weaknesses still, but it's not too bad. I think this team has the pieces to kind of get around that weakness. What do you think?
I think overall that's a trade which makes sense. I don't think it's also necessarily a problem to have 2 Pokemon of the same type in Wishy-Washy and Slowbro. I mean, Slowbro can also run support. I don't know about support Wishy-Washy, but they both in their own way can provide offensive presence, and Slowbro also has a utility option. Even keeping Galarian Slowking though, I get it. Um, I think overall the team gels together well. It's just that ground weakness is really glaring. So um, overall, I really like the team. Uh,
Same.
I don't like
Yeah.
6 ground weaknesses, but hey, if you know how to work around it, it's also not gonna force you to lose. I don't think.
It could also be one of those things at the end of the draft. It was just like, oh, I have a lot of ground weaknesses, right? So for all we know, Sunny Shore, they're in their what's called HC Shark and their front office, they might already be addressing it as we speak, right? So, or they're this is fine, like that meme where that dog sitting in the fire, the house on fire. This is fine. No, again, very, very cool team. Not every team's gonna be, have like not every team's gonna be completely immune to all strategies, but having a ground weakness like this is something, but not a major concern. So we'll have to see how it plays
Right.
out. Are their moves going to be made, or are they just going to kind of roll with it? And I think this team is good enough to do both. So looking forward to that. Very, very cool team.
Party.
Party, yeah. Speaking of party, let's go over to the TGR. That was a horrible segue, but I really like this team. This is a very me team. I like to
Pink?
have
Is it the
yes.
color pink? Okay, I nailed it.
I like this team because I think Sneasel. There was actually a season I was considering getting Sneasel first round
I remember that. Yeah.
because because it we were talking in the last episode of either the glue on a team or like the most important piece on a team. I see remove Sneasel from this team, it gets incredibly worse. Your Mudsdale gets worse, your Gallade gets worse, things like that. I really like this team as a whole. Porygon, you don't see a lot, like standard Porygon, just because P2 with the Eviolite is slightly better, but it's definitely more expensive in this league in the A tier. But I think Porygon, yeah, I think it fills the role really, really nicely. But I could go on for hours about this team. Like Mudsdale, I think is one of the best Pokemon in Draft League, personally. But
I'm
yeah.
a big fan of Vikavolt. A lot of successful teams have run Vikavolt. Alchemy is really interesting, not just because they have by far the most sprites out of our 3D models out of any Pokemon. They're like half the 3D models in Sword and Shield base like before the expansions, but also good support suite, good enough stats to even be a sweeper in their own right. Bleh, 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 bleh. Thunderous Incarnate. I like the synergy between Thunderous and Sneasel as well. Thunderous, Prankster Thunderous, famous for Thunder Wave. So good, they had to nerf Prankster and Thunder Wave multiple times. Nerfing Thunder Wave, that is, multiple times.
Yeah, it's 50-50 in the past, right?
No. So the way that they modified based on the success of Prankster Thunderous is they reduced the accuracy from 100% to 90%, and they gave electric and ground types immunity to it. So those were the two main changes. There was a change going from Gen 7 to Gen 8 to paralysis itself, but that was changing the quartering of the speed to having the speed. So that wasn't in response to Prankster Thunderous being broken, but yes, there was an additional modification to paralysis itself. But yeah, so where I'm getting at is Thunderous is good speed control, but you could also baton pass that over to Sneasel, and then you can run a bit of an offensive set. I mean, I would say Series 8, Thunderous had a lot of popularity, maybe even Series 7 and 9 with Defiant. So, strong physical and special attacker, but can also still run that Prankster set because somebody else can fill the speed control role. You could say also Starmie does, right? I think Starmie gets Icy Wind.
Yeah.
And Thunder Wave because Gen 1.
Go Gen 1ers.
I'll never forget though, in the Orange Islands, Starmie used Thunderbolt by spinning quickly. So maybe Thunder Wave, there's something there. I don't know.
It's the gem. It's a sneaky little gem. I don't know. It's probably got some power. Like I don't know why it gets the coverage it does, but it's Pokemon logic, right?
So, I don't want to. I want to minimize this as much as possible. There's even a thread called like Pokemon move oddities and explanations on Smogon, and I've posted a few times there, even once including Starmie. But
why does it not surprise me that you've been on there?
Yeah, it's a great thread. So, they're really knowledgeable people. Like somebody was explaining physics, like it's really difficult to produce centrifugal force. So most of the time you're talking about centripetal force. Like, yeah, good stuff. But those mysteries aside, is there a mystery into what you would change about this team, or do you have kind of a clear idea of what you would fix, if anything?
Clear, no. Because I'm picking one for every team. I don't think this team needs any changes. I think every single Pokemon on this team has a nice role. If I had to pick one, this is actually the very first team that, as hard as it is to make a change, there's actually two that we haven't done two yet on a team, but I think there's two options on this team, but one less now that I look at the team again, going into looking at a team for a second, third, and fourth time. You see it differently. I now see synergy with Gourgeist and Duraludon with Trick or Treat, but that's a whole nother thing. It also gets Dark Pulse, so on the Duraludon, so I can see that being
Yeah.
really cool. But I'm gonna say Duraludon being dropped on this team, aside from that strat that we had in the A tier. Are you surprised Inteleon wasn't drafted at all?
I never know how to react to this stuff because like everyone has their own plan and play style, and I think the A tier is pretty big. So like
That's
no,
good.
but also I've really had positive experiences with Inteleon, so yes. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. To us, I think we mentioned this last episode, is like things that we found really good in our experience might not have been introduced, or not has either had not much success in other leagues because either it was used by someone that didn't quite like it, didn't trust it, or didn't know all the things it could do, things like that. So it
exactly.
could have a bad rap. But in our league, Inteleon's just been really, really good. And just not to mention, with the stalwart ability, if that's one of the reasons why you want it, Inteleon gets snipe shot.
Right. The type coverage does get different because, that's specifically water type move, and
Yeah.
Groudon can use any type move. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that is a plus. You could say maybe Inteleon steps on Starmie's toes a little bit, but they can do really different stuff.
Mm-hmm. Or you can run an
Uh,
offensive Inteleon or a support Inteleon, or vice versa on the Starmie
right.
as well. Like I that's one of those things that I saw as well. I like Duraludon as a Pokemon. I don't think it's 100% fit on this team. I do see it working. Um, I just like Inteleon so much personally that because
Same.
you potentially have a screen setter. Like I feel like Inteleon and Dragapult were run on the ladder very similarly. And
Hmm.
not to mention, as we mentioned in the last episode, it gets multiple priority moves in Aqua Jet and Ice Shard. So
Right.
I can see a potential Aqua Jet on Weakness Policy Mudsdale. But hey, I've seen Weakness Policy in Incineroar. It's pretty strong. Um, as well. So, not to mention Ice Shard, Weakness Policy all around is pretty cool, and screens, and not to mention it gets Gmax Hydro Snipe, which, yeah, is
Power.
just, yeah, it's pretty strong. But yeah, so that would be one of the moves I would make, and also I saw Clefable that was available in the S tier as well, which I was in shock it wasn't drafted, because of its
Okay, yeah,
versatility.
that's pretty surprising. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
Follow Me. I think you mentioned last episode was just it's really really good. Like the only way to get around it is the Duraludon in a sense, right?
right. And not only that, but it's extremely popular. Like almost all the Follow Me Pokemon go like every single season, every single draft league I've seen.
Yeah,
Yeah, there can be one left over. Uh, I've never seen it beat Clefable though.
yeah,
I don't
it's
think.
always been drafted.
Yeah. Um, but hey, I mean, pick the Pokemon who work well with you. Uh, just because Clefable's really good doesn't mean you have to draft them or anything like that.
Nope, exactly, and that's one of the things that, like, every team, I think you don't. We're picking moves just to kind of like give people some food for thought. Like it's not 100% the greatest idea, but it's just something to think about. So Clefable, unfortunately, you would have to drop an S tier to grab it, and I think
Hmm.
Thundurus is as cool as Thundurus is. I do think Clefable for Thundurus does add a lot to this team. Clefable with the Unaware ability with Follow Me, and not to mention the Magic Art ability, so Life Orb. This thing can be run offensively and defensively, and I just see it working really, really well with a lot of other Mons on this roster as well. So I'm curious to kind of see what Pat Mac does with that, with the TGR. But yeah, very, very cool team. We really like this one. Both of us really like this one. The UBDL. This team, we talk about weather and things like that, with other teams and what stands out as weather, and this team looks very weathery. Like this is
Well,
what the
one
weatheriest
weather,
weather.
but yes.
Yeah, it's a very, very strong weather team. This kind of looks like my first draft league season with when I had a rain team. It was very, very
Oh,
rainy.
I mean, to less of an extent, I can say the same thing because, first of all, will the real Berserker please stand up?
Yeah, yeah. There he is
It's
now.
like actually no mind playing tricks on me. And Butterfree, they were both on my season one team. Uh,
Yeah.
literally brought Butterfree to every single match except the final. And that was just because I was like, let's give Butterfree a break.
She's getting tired, right?
Well, I would imagine playing so many consecutive weeks, it's got to be rough. But absolutely worthy Pokemon. I love also, like, okay, yeah, Compound Eyes, you already have insanely good accuracy on Whirlwinds, but Whirlwind doesn't miss in the rain. And so that's a little
Hurricane?
bit of support of Butterfree.
Oh,
Yeah.
Whirlwind.
Do I?
Whirlwind or Hurricane?
Well, okay. Whirlwind already doesn't miss.
I was gonna say, I'm like,
Hurricane.
it's
I
like, do I
keep
have to go
doing
look that
that.
up?
Okay. I'm accidentally foreshadowing though with Whirlwind because
Ah,
Butterfree does get Whirlwind, and that is important for something coming up. I do
yes.
also want to say I love the support for Kartana and having rain,
Mm-hmm.
and also for Regieleki, Thunder Don't Miss. We
Mm-hmm.
don't miss. And Impidimp, just I love that design so much. I'm excited to see what Impidimp can do.
Yeah, this team, like, I think Impidimp is anything prankster is just really, really nice. Like, we looked it up. It doesn't get screens, unfortunately, unlike its Morgrim and Grimmsnarl
Right.
evolutions. But I don't think that's really 100% needed because Aleki is there. You also have Charjabug that does that really well as well. So I
Mm.
kind of like this as well. And uh, just to kind of bring you back to like just foreshadowing your Whirlwind with the Butterfree, one of the
Mhm.
things that stands out on this team is it doesn't have a single Trick Room setter on this team.
And I would argue no trigger mode to boot. Like, yeah, you have Berserker on the sore end and
Yeah.
Charjabug is on the sore ends, but there's no trick room setter, but there's no like truly slow Pokemon who can uh, get in a beatdown. So, mm, yeah,
Yeah, this team would
well,
never set Trick Room intentionally unless Berserker just looks really good in the matchup. And
which is possible.
which is possible. I had Berserker last season and it was really good. I really liked it, and you also won a championship with it. So it didn't come to that match, but it got you there for sure.
Yes. Uh, really reliable Pokemon. Few things you can do with them. I think that's true for a number of Pokemon here. Like, yeah, okay, Urshifu is offensive, but the coverage is really good. Regieleki offensive support, which is nice. Yeah, so I guess the question is,
Is it a
does this?
problem?
Yeah, I'm gonna say no. Partly because, like, okay, so if you don't have a slow mode, it could be dangerous to let your opponent get it up.
Hmm.
But I think this team has a few reliable ways to stop it. Like Butterfree has Whirlwind,
Yeah.
and yeah, Follow Main is an option. I think really only DD Female is going to stop that because you do have other Pokemon on this team who have Fake Out, and so if you can Whirlwind out the Pokemon setting Trick Room, you're okay. There is also Taunt available, so Fake Out Taunt is an option as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, so even without Imprison Trick Room or clicking Trick Room yourself, I think that there are ways to stop it. And
So actually, just let me just interrupt you for a second. So just
yeah,
for the people listening, because like, yes, the players are going to be listening, and they know definitely Whirlwind and why it stops the Trick Room. Why specifically is Whirlwind and Roar good plays against the Trick Room setter?
the priority of Trick Room is -7, and Whirlwind, Dragon Tail, Circle Throw.
All
Uh,
moves that force switches.
right, there are four. Um, so,
So
and
Trick
Roar.
Room is the lowest priority bracket that there
Exactly.
is.
Yeah, so when you go for Roar, you're going to send them out. So not only are they not able to click Trick Room the next turn if uh, you're stopping them the turn of. So that unless your opponent has two Trick Room setters out, like they're not setting Trick Room for a while. Like
That
yeah, you
sucks
could
when that happens. You're like, which one's
yeah.
gonna do it?
Yes, that can be really stressful and cause a lot of 50-50s. It could even be dangerous if like you go for Whirlwind and the Pokemon Dynamaxes instead, since that's a risk in Series 9. Um, Pokemon who Dynamax are immune to forced switch out moves,
Hmm.
and one switch out item, which is red card. But Yeah, I would say in general it's a fairly reliable way of dealing with Trick Room because it's so disruptive. The Pokemon who comes in is
Is
chosen at
dragged
random.
out. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's one thing that's so undervalued with all those moves is like field position is so important when you're playing in a league, especially like this best on best. And when you're in like a very heated match, it's very chess match like, someone's waiting for someone to make a mistake and you use whirlwind or roar and you drag out something that is a horrible matchup. A, you're forcing them to switch, or B, you're just going to OHKO whatever's out. So I think that's a really cool tech that isn't seen as much across the VGC world, I guess, in on the ladder and things like that, and in draft league. But very cool
Yeah.
tech, and I thought I definitely wanted to touch on that as well because you're actually the one that taught me that. So and I'm learning every single day. So very cool stuff. But yeah, my first thing was this team needs a trick room setter because I don't know if I can play around it enough and well enough to stop it from happening. But like you said, there's fake out, there's whirlwind, things like that, and not to mention there's so much power on this team that you could just flat out KO something with neutral damage. Like
Oh,
Cortana with Steely Spirit Berserker. What? Like 181 attack. That's 50% boosted by Seal.
yeah. If you're knocked out, you also can't go for any moves. So that's a
Oh,
way to
really?
stop Trick Room.
Let me write that down. Hold on.
Yeah, this is the real insider secret.
Yeah, I like this team a lot. I think this is very cool. It scares me because it reminds me of a team that I struggled using. So that's if there was one move on this team, we actually didn't come out with what this team really needed because we just established before that Trick Room isn't 100% needed on this team because of
Right.
the construct. We do see an overlap with the two Swift Swim users, which isn't a problem on a lot of teams, but I think that this one there is a little bit. And by the way, can we just make just a mention? We were talking about Hitmontop last episode. Ludicolo really needs to stop moving.
I mean, that's a good enough reason to cut a Pokemon from a team, right?
Yeah, like I could just delete it right now. Actually, like there it goes. Right?
Okay,
Yeah.
work. Love this team. Ship it.
Yeah. No, but I actually don't know what to really add to this team. Is there anything just to kind of throw at you, like that you think would really, not something specific, but obviously C tier and B tier, there's more value in one than in the other when it comes to, Pokemon that could add to your team. I think B has a little more to offer than C. But do you think double Swift Swim users on this team is a problem, or would you make a move if this was yours?
So, the typing that they have in common is water,
Mhm.
uh, which also
But
means that they have no overlap in terms of weakness, which I
not
think
at all.
could be beneficial. Um, uh, yeah. uh,
It sounds like it's a no. You don't really need to make a move.
Well, my rule is for making a change to my team, I want to really reason out why the Pokemon should stay and who's coming in, what they're really going to do. I really don't like making trades willy-nilly, and might be too soon to figure it out because the two Swift Swim users are also uh, pretty different, I would say. So
Yeah.
like I don't know if I could easily pick one over the other either. So it would come
Yeah.
down to I think who can add the most to my team on a pickup.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right on the head in the beginning when you said they don't have any overlapping weaknesses. And yes, they're used in a similar way, but if you're prepping against Swift Swim Ludicolo, you need a separate check for Swift Swim Seismitoad. Like just for countering it. So I think it's almost like you probably wouldn't want to bring both of them the same week, I would imagine. Just because I feel like there are other things you'd want on a team week to week. But I think this is something that you could split the time, like one in, one out next week, one
Right.
in, one out, And I think this could be very hard to prep against. And it's funny that we're just completely ignoring Urshifu single strike, but which is just amazing getting through all protects and things like that. So Wicked Blow is just so broken. Game Freak, what were you doing when you added this? Yeah, like this team is just so cool. Like I see Tailwind, I see Charge a Bug, which adds the 50% special attack boost with battery, which is really cool. I can pairing that next to Regieleki using Electro Ball against something slow. I don't think anything survives. I think that'd be really, really cool. Not to mention if you specs your Eleki, holy crap. That damage would be insane. You have a battery boost, you have specs, and you're using Electro Ball on your Eleki, which gets the transistor boost. Like, oh my goodness. Like, you have two nukes on this team with the Kartana and the Steel Spike next to Sealy Spirit, and you have the battery boosted Regieleki. So I see a lot of power on this team. I see a really, really good rain mode, and I see a couple of fun things you can do with Berserker and Impidimp, not to mention Butterfree. So very, very cool team. I think this is going to be one of the better teams if it's played right. So very cool. But bringing on to another really good team that you and I both really looked at as a standout was the UGA. UGA being one of the bigger leagues that we have actually in the MGU All-Stars. In size, yeah. More well known across the community when it comes to, just bigger leagues and things like that, and a lot of people go to the UGA because they have a lot of things going on over there.
Yeah.
Tay actually had to beat other champions in that Discord server to get here, which should be a little bit intimidating to a few of the other players. Can't yes and no. I think this team, to me, it looks really scary. I see this is a very grindy team, first of all. Like, this actually looks like a U team, Octo, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know. Even more so than me, like how I play, this team really has a lot of bulk. Has a bit of flexibility too. There's Pokemon, or three above 100 speed, and there's a bit of a slow mode in there. P2 is such a good anchor, in my opinion. Araquanid is solid, even if not able to go first on the slow end. And what's nice is one of Araquanid's only weaknesses is flying, and you don't want to be using flying moves in Trick Room. I think there's a lot to like about this team overall. Power-wise, I think it's also there, but you've got 110 on Latias. We already saw Latios, so by process of elimination, this is Latios, right?
Yeah, I've got a note here reminding me of which one this one's going to be called. So, yeah.
And I'd say, including Water Bubble, Boost, Araquanid's up there in the power department. If you get a boost on Porygon too, that's quite reasonable strength. Yeah, I'd say overall this team has a lot of what can make a team successful.
And I know that last season you had P2, or was that the season before? I think it was last season, right?
When we were playing with Restricteds, that was the season I had P2.
Okay, so that one, you made really, really good use of that download ability. I know a lot of people went out, including myself, when I was using download P2 or playing against it, I just kind of went like, man, like, why did I get the attack boost there? That really sucks, but not really understanding why. Could you explain, like, for people that do like using this Pokemon with download, how it actually works? Like, I know it kind of explains it a little bit, but just explain like I'm 5. How does the download boost activate, and why does the stat go up?
Download is going to activate either on send-in or reactivation of your ability, which could be if you're acquiring it through skill swap, or if it was negated by neutralizing gas, and then neutralizing gas is itself in some way negated, that'll reactivate all abilities. So it's a send-in ability, and it's going to increase whichever stat theoretically is going to be better into your opponent. So I think the way that they do the maths are they add the defense and special defense of all Pokemon, defense of all Pokemon on your opponent's side of the field, and then their special defense and their special defense. And whichever number is lower, the corresponding attacking stat is going to get the boost. So, for example, if you have I would say two good Pokemon to look at are like
Two on the screen actually
Stonejourner
stand out.
and Cursula. So Cursula has really high special defense and really low defense. If you're running like a max defense set on Cursula, that offsets a little bit. Stonejourner has even lower special defense. If you're running max defense and no special defense investment, um, you got to figure out which one ends up being higher. But like if you just had Stonejourner on the opponent's side of the field, their defense is clearly way higher, so you're going to get the special attack boost. Whereas if Cursula is on the field by themselves, their special defense is way higher, so you're going to get the attack boost. It's basically to let you hit the weaker side. Now, of course, if you're running an all special set, you're not going to get much use out of the attack boost. It's going to be a bit disappointing, but a good idea is always to run a lot of physical attackers to necessitate your opponent running defense investment to survive hits. So that way, when you send in the download, hopefully you get that special attack boost and really allow P2 to go off.
Yeah, like you wouldn't want to send P2 in against the two that are floating next to it, such as the Latias and the Araquanid, because their special defense is so high. So on a send-in against those two, you would get an attack boost, which wouldn't benefit you because their special defense is so high. So, yeah, a very, very cool tech that not maybe everybody knows and I don't, but hey, there's some stuff I know that you guys don't know. So there's that. But
Right.
very, very cool team. If there was one move you could make on this team, because I'm just basically calling this your team, just because I can see a lot of things you really like on it. Not to mention the Dedenne, right? I think you like Dedenne, and you wanted to maybe talk to people about Dedenne, and
Okay. That is the correct pronunciation of the Pokemon's name. However, that is morally wrong. There's no accent above the E, the last E, to let us know that you're supposed to pronounce it. And what generation did Dedenne premiere in?
Gen 7.
Gen 6.
I was
The
gonna say
French
6,
region,
yeah.
which is based on
Oh,
France. And in France, they speak French. And in French, if there's no accent on the E at the end of a word, you don't pronounce it.
as an
And
A,
yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, Dedenne. If you look at the katakana of the name, it says de-de-ne. So you have to pronounce it because there is a character for n. So if it was supposed to be deden, it would be de-de-n, deden. But no, that it will forever till the end of time bother me. But that said, I don't take it out on Dedenne because adorable, precious, amazing.
Another
I only
Pikachu
have
clone.
nice things to say. I like Dedenne a lot.
Yeah, I really like the D-Den over there as well, so... Sorry.
Sounds like D-Day or Ardennes. We're getting into French stuff now, but we're not supposed to talk about real world stuff.
No, yeah, yeah, we don't want to
And
talk about that stuff. Anyway.
so yeah, as far as change I would make, I mean, you know what I mean? It's very that.
I know, yes. Everybody listening knows what you mean.
um, I will admit sometimes I hear something and I just kind of run with it without fully questioning it. Jamie Boyd is a known opponent of Tapu Fini, and the first place I would look to make on this to make a change on this team is also Tapu Fini. But then,
Ooh.
like, as soon as I do that and I just give in to his like disapproval, another voice pops in my head like, yeah, but like, are you really thinking this through?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Like Tapu Fini does have really high usage and has performed really well in tournaments, and I think there's got to be something behind that. So, like, I don't even know if you can justify dropping Tapu Fini, but I would say, like, on a team with really solid, bulky offense, I do like having a sweeper who can just pop off. Maybe if ever
Such
done it
as?
next to Mian Chao, but Pheromosa?
Ooh. And you have experience using Pheromosa as well.
Yeah, Pheromosa, Dedenne, P2, that's all the same season.
Yeah, maybe that's why this looks like your team.
I would have liked. Yeah, no, I think it's fair to say I would have liked the Trevenant. Didn't make it onto the team. And my team name was the Wild Wild Torracat, so you also have that like association with
Torracat,
Torracat,
yeah.
who's also on this team. Yeah, I think it's fully justifiable to keep Tapu Fini on this team. But Pheromosa offers extremely fast speed control next to the Latias, or if you wanted to go for Tailwind with Corviknight, you can do that instead. So I think that's a plus. Um, and just the overall like damage potential, but also support potential that Pheromosa offers. I think Pheromosa could be a good addition to the team. I do understand though, looking at Mienshao, like there's a bit of similarity there. They both would want Focus Sash, and on a given week, are you going to want to bring both as a result? It's tough to say, but yeah, this team doesn't need to make any changes either, so like, it's cool.
Yeah, and we weren't talking about this as well, but that Latias can potentially be moved as well in a case as well, because I do see Tailwind over on the Corviknight as well.
True.
But the one Finny replacement I was thinking, we didn't write this down, but I love Cinderace as much as the next person. Being able to change your typing every turn with the speed that it has, I just think you're not adding a fire type to your team. You're really not. Like, you're really just adding whatever type you want it to be. And I mean, think
if you want another fire type,
yeah, it does it very well. The Pyro Ball, Gmax
sure.
Pyro. What's the Gmax move called? I forget.
Pyro Ball.
Gmax Pyro Ball? Isn't
Yeah,
the move
it
just
sounds...
Pyro Ball as well?
Wait, hang on. Gmax Fireball is the Gmax move. Pyro Ball is the regular move. They sound really similar. But yeah, Pyro Ball is a base move, you're right, and the Gigantamax move is Fireball.
And just to make this team a little bit more like a team you've had in the past, adding Cinderace on this team as well, next to something with Prankster Fake Tears.
I even wanted to run Purloin, but I got sniped, so I went with Cottony, who's also very good pick for my team. Yeah, it might sound weird because it is like Cinderace's special attack is really low, 65.
65, yeah.
But because you have stab on all of your moves, that goes a long way to make up for it. And then if you have Fake Tears, well, hello. That literally doubles the damage output of anything that you click next to it that's a special move. So
and his coverage is really good on the special side as well. It gets like ground, gets electric, which it doesn't get on the physical side. So that can be a week-to-week decision as well. So yeah, Cinderace I think can be really, really cool and really versatile. And I've seen also support Cinderace sets as well in a draft league setting. So I think that would be one thing I'd make. But again, do we have to make a move on this team? Absolutely not. But again, we're just picking one just for fun. But because we were on this one a lot longer than we wanted to be, actually, the VBA... I think hold on, another segue into another segue. Speaking about talking about a team we were on this screen, you and I, for so long.
Did we make half an hour?
Probably.
We've been talking, not just the YouTube video. We've been talking for like 3 hours. So we probably were talking about this team for a half hour.
We prepare for this show, everybody. We don't just go in, like every other YouTube. No, I'm kidding. Everybody preps as well. But no, we like to kind of at least have an idea what we're doing beforehand. Like, we know our stuff, but at the same time, a little bit of prep goes a long way. But this team, like, I just see. I'm not saying this team is bad. I just see like there's some mons on this team that just. I don't get it, and that might have something to do with not being a part of the VBA or not having experience the same as somebody else, but I don't get the Moltres pick. I really don't. I don't see the Moltres with what it usually needs. Yes, I see Lightning Rod near it, but Moltres usually benefits from something to activate weakness policy, but I don't see Ice Shard. I think maybe Glacier gets it. No? Actually, I don't think it does. No, I don't see Ice Shard. I don't see like Prankster Draining Kiss. I don't see like as we usually see. So I don't get the Moltres. So I think, especially being such an expensive pick, 150 points from an S tier in your free slot, I think that could definitely be benefited. You could benefit more from something else in that slot. Personally, well, I think not personally, but personally between the two of us, we felt that this team would really benefit from something that makes Glacier a little bit better because it's so good on its own. Glacier is just so strong, and we were talking about it in my history with it on my team, is not using it or protecting it makes it so much better. So adding something with like competitive or defiant could be really, really cool to stop the intimidate users or just punish them for doing it. So it's like you got your Glacier out there, they hard switch in, say, an Incineroar. Meanwhile, you hard switch in something with competitive or defiant. Is there a mon that stands out for you in the S tier, actually, that you might see fit on this team?
Pheromosa. No.
Something with competitive or defiant.
There aren't a lot of options. Most of the defiant competitive Pokemon found their way into lower tiers, and some of them have also been picked up already by other teams. But Galarian Zapdos has defiant, and by the way, I said Kickbird when I was trying to think of the name of Blaziken. I think the term was derived for Galarian Zapdos.
Thunderous Kick.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, hey. They were the OG. Like, look at Blaziken's legs. Look at their arms. They have chicken legs for arms, and they have like
bell bottoms,
kite wings. Well, that too, yeah. Maybe they have chicken legs under the bell bottoms. I mean, I saw an image of Mewtwo having stolen Lucario's shorts. So maybe some of these designs are actual like removable pieces of clothing. Who knows? Oh, Lucario's on this team too. Oh, small world.
And I'm glad you said Galarian Zapdos as well. I think that's a really I like making moves that add what you need, but not change the construct of the team entirely. And I think changing Galarian Moltres for Galarian Zapdos, keeping that flying type, makes Raichu still do almost exactly what Raichu does on this team already, but it also adds something as well. Like, yes, on the special side, you're losing Moltres and what it can do, but I think I see a lot of synergy with Galarian Zapdos on this team, and not to mention Glacier can just do Glacier things with just that little, it's just in the back of your mind. You don't even have to bring it. Just the threat of Defiant is a little scary. You don't just intimidate spam. Some teams have two of them. So if you're going up against a Glacier with no downside of intimidating, you just bring both and just cycle them in and out. And now Glacier is no longer a problem. So
yeah, not that I use Glacier, but I'm getting flashbacks to like especially Series 10 people repeatedly switching to hose your stats, and then the other Pokemon is snarling. They just don't want you to deal any damage.
Someone please snarl that Galarian Zapdos, please.
Yeah, somebody to really punish people for playing defensively can apply pressure in its own right, but Galarian Zapdos also has a completely usable attack stat, and I'd say enough coverage to where you're dealing at least neutral most of the time. Having Stab Max Airstream is also really good, which Galarian Moltres also gets, but that 10 extra points of speed could make a difference. On the slow side, I just feel like if he wanted to, Dan could just make this a Trick Room first team. I think this was your idea, so I don't want to take credit for it, but Hatterene?
Yeah. I think and when you and I were going over this team, Hatterene does look really good next to the Indeedee, but we do now see overlap with the Slowking. So if that was going to be made, we were looking at two moves, but then we didn't see anything in the C tier that was particularly great on this team.
Well, if we want to fully commit to Trick Room, there was an idea which I fully support, which you brought up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the question though. Do you really want to commit to a hard Trick Room team? We have seen it before. It's worked decently well, but I think sometimes it does become a limiting factor. And you have to really want to commit to Trick Room to be able to do that. But yeah, if you would, Crustle.
Yeah. I think Crustle, yeah. With the you could also make it work with a Shell Smash set as well. And I think with doubling its speed, I think you can throw some speed investment into Crustle, and it kind of outspeeds what it needs to some weeks. So I think the fact that it can be used in both is kind of nice as well. So yeah, I think this team might be the only team that I think would need 2 moves. Like I see some things that but also there might be some things on this team that that might be there that I'm unaware of, which I'd probably lose to this team, because if you're not ready for something, you kind of it's your downfall. But yeah, I think there's 2 moves needed on this team. I think there's many ways you can go. I think there's a nice core in your Indeedee, your Raichu, your Glacier, things like that. I think Slurpuff can be really fun as well. I think this team has a lot of fun things on it, and I think I could make it. I can make it work, but I think there might be 2 moves I would want to make on this team. I don't know what they are, but I think adding a mode might be really cool, and I think an S tier in Moltres might be a little expensive, but again, Raichu's just awesome, Glacier is just awesome, and Indeedee's one of my favorite draft league Pokemon. I actually took it first this season. You and I did, actually, when we drafted for somebody else. We took it first in a non-Dynamax format because I think it's that good. And then built a team around that. So very, very cool core. Might be a couple moves, might not be. But I'm curious to see how the VBA does, and Dan the Man to see how it works on the field. So, but moving on to the VDL, Victory Draft League. I love Victini.
I think to some extent fan favorite. Not number 1 fan favorite. We've done polls, but Victini, I think really high up there, and well deserved. I like the design a lot. They also gave Victini quite a bit of love with the Searing Shot, V-Create, originally completely exclusive moves. Solid, strong, heavy hitting moves too. But
it's really cool looking.
I feel like those concepts are kind of represented with this team, right? You've got adaptability, base 135 special attack PZ. Primarina has a reputation, I think, across many draft leagues, being kill leader, close to it. I know Cybertron had that detour with Primarina initially. Oh god, so stressful to prep against Primarina. Yeah, I'd say Weavile hits hard. You can do a lot with Arcanine, Geico. Adaptability Part 2, the remix with Dragalge. Yeah. Okay. Aesthetics also. I'll start positive.
I know where this is going.
Tyrantrum, just so
one of the
beautiful.
coolest designs. Yeah, I think it's so cool. It's not, you don't see it a lot, but
Tyrantrum reminds me
cool.
of a Digimon.
It does.
But like in the best way. This would be like maybe a Deva, one of the like 4 gods of Digimon. I'm a really big fan of the design. I think Runerigus looks really cool. I'm a bigger fan of Impidimp than Morgrem, but like, hey, we'll let it slide. Dragalge is like kelp personified, but like also a seahorse. I don't know. I vibe with that. Raikou is a tiger, so like that's my QED whenever 10-year-old me was like, oh my god, the 3 legendary cats. That one is literally a saber-tooth tiger. Like you can't argue against that.
Yeah, it's
QED
not a
mama.
dog. They call it legendary dogs. They're not dogs.
Okay, but can you say the name for me? Because I can't. Like.
Okay, so rather than ask you what move would you make, why would you drop Girder?
Aesthetics. I'm biased. I'm completely biased. I'm being completely open about it because I think it's fair. And if anyone wants to call me out on it, you know what? I'll just do it myself. That said, like, I do think Eviolite could be good on Morgrem. I understand you can run both, and Morgrem doesn't need the Eviolite per se, for example, but I just, no. Do not want. Nope.
I've never been a big fan of like those middle evolutions, like a Girder, Machoke, and things like that. I've seen them in draft league. I mean, I'm not talking aesthetics, but okay. I've seen them, and I think we actually had another one earlier in that we were saying drop as well. I forget which one it was. I think it was in the last episode. It was definitely a free pick, but
yeah.
I think the D tier, like this team is very complete. I really like this team. I think that a D tier can fill a specific role, and one of those roles could potentially be Bronzor.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and I actually think that was one of your ideas that that I'm stealing right now, just to pass off as my own, and coming clean about it. I'm coming clean. Why Bronzor though?
Oh, I just realized PZ is also a Trick Room setter. But generally, if you want to go with a slow mode, you don't want somebody with base 90 speed to be going for Trick Room. But I mean, if you're running a flex team, it could make sense to also run it on PZ. But what you do by having another really slow Trick Room setter is you allow your potential offense-oriented Trick Room setter to commit fully to that instead of having to run some kind of utility move to benefit the whole team. You're like taking a load off their shoulders. So Bronzor, I mean, they're probably only ever coming in and clicking Trick Room, and ideally, you get a support move or two in there. But Runerigus, you could really go for a setup strat that could be effective, or just go full on offense and not having to commit to a move, which is more support for the team. Emphasize that. I mean, especially if you wanted to go, for example, Assault Vest. Talk about a Pokemon who's never going down. Dynamax, Assault Vest, Runerigus. Base defense, through the roof. Special defense, good. You get a free +1. Mom.
Access to Max Knuckle
That's
as
not
well
getting
through
okay.
body press. Yeah, that's. I think this thing could be really, really good in support and also on the offensive side as well. So yeah, having that versatility to not be your only good Trick Room setter, I think is just adds a little bit. Actually, in my opinion, enough to this team to do very, very well. So I think that Bronzor idea that you had was really good, and doesn't, like you said, doesn't really fight the Morgrem for the Eviolite.
Right.
Because Morgrem does really well with Focus Sash and things like that.
And you're probably only bringing Bronzor when you don't want to set Trick Room with Runerigus. I mean, they have two of the same weaknesses, which is negative against that. But yeah, so there will be a lot of weeks where Morgrem can come as a sole Eviolite user. That's already true too with He Who Shall Not Be. Well, They Who Shall Not Be Named.
Mm-hmm.
I know, looking at the Pokemon, I get masculine vibes, but they can be male or female, and we're going to respect that.
Oh.
Yeah, it's the same thing with them, but I like Morgrem with Eviolite as much as I like Morgrem without Eviolite, and I like the idea of another slow Trick Room setter, and I don't like the aesthetics of, let's say, the original Steel Beam Haver.
Well, and not to mention,
Bit of a mouthful for an adjacent name, but yeah.
Well, like I was thinking as well, like it's not like with the addition of Bronzor and setting Trick Room, you don't have to bulldoze your Dragalge with a base 95 attack stab bulldoze from Rodriguez to activate that policy. I did see that when I saw this. There's no secret that Dragalge with Dynamax and weakness policy is a very, very good mon. Not to mention getting that stat. It's the strongest Max Ooze in the game, being adaptability boosted. So,
right.
And it's just snowballing effect as well. Like once you use the first strong attack with Max Ooze, it just gets stronger the next turn and things like that. So Dragalge can go off, and I think adding like a weaker Bulldozer that sets Trick Room as well would be just what the doctor ordered for this team. So very, very cool team. Weavile is one of my favorite Pokemon ever, so it's nice to see it there as well. And we just completely ignored Arcanine because it doesn't need any extra love, right?
Arcanine is not necessarily popular as being considered the best draft league Pokemon ever, period. But Arcanine is usually in discussion for top 5.
Yep.
So yeah, Arcanine really, really good. There is the beat up mode. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. And also the main Intimidate user by being the only one. That's also widely considered one of, if not the best ability in the game. So yeah, Arcanine just does a lot.
Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
and we'll start and end with the legendary dog kind of thing, and I'm going to say that in parentheses. Sorry, in quotations or whatever. Arcanine's Pokedex entry actually said legendary dog. Just saying. Just saying. And it's right next to a legendary dog /cat, so Just saying. So the only legendary dog there is Arcanine, essentially. Just because it's written. But let's move on to actually...
Who's that?
We're going to do the most unbiased opinion about this roster because both of us, Octo and myself, are from the WPL. So Octo, you actually helped him quite a bit with this draft and planning as well, which I thank you for as well, because I think every league should rally together and give your rep as much support as humanly possible when it comes to potential moves, planning, strategizing, things like that. I feel like when groups band together, I feel like it just gives them such a better chance to compete as well. So I'm really hoping that the WPL really supports Vitor in that sense.
I would say continues to support, because he's already been in consultation with a lot of us, and I'm thankful to him for keeping an open mind, and I'm thankful to everyone else who has also been trying to support Vitor in any way they can. If I may offer a slight counterpoint, since this was my role partially, I sent him a pre-approved list. So if he picked any Pokemon on there, I probably wasn't going to argue it. And the reason why is because I have a pretty clear idea of how Vitor plays, and I also draft Pokemon who I end up not using. I don't think the reason why is that they don't suit my playstyles. Usually there's something else going on. But with him, I've noticed he has picked up Pokemon and then not used them. And I'm like, oh my god, like, trade them to me!
I know exactly who you're talking about. I know exactly which one.
Yeah. So, I want to make sure that he's picking up Pokemon who suit his playstyle. So if he doesn't use them, the reason isn't because they don't have anything to do with his playstyle. If he picks up a Pokemon who doesn't suit his playstyle, I don't think he's ever going to use them. And if it's for a different reason, there was a chance. So I think also, if you're going to support your compatriots, your representatives, if you will, I think if you can also try to really get a solid idea of how they play, or it can also be they play a lot of different ways, but they want to play a particular way with their team, and try to respect that and support it. I think that's one of the best ways you can contribute as somebody who's sitting on the sidelines, aside from helping with prep, because that's the bread and butter of a draft league. As long as you have a team, if you can do really good prep, you can win. So prep, arguably, the most important aspect. If you can, help them.
Yes.
And go from there. So yeah, also during the draft, I was helping Vitor. We had a bit of back and forth. There were a few times where there was initially an opportunity to pick up somebody, but the opportunity wasn't there until by the time it came around to him. Shockingly, though, I honestly am surprised he got Venocole. 16.
Yeah, I don't.
Place.
He said he wanted it before the draft, and it was just like, are you sure you want to build your team around that at 16th overall? It's not going to be there. And I'm pleasantly surprising. The 16th overall selection is, a lot of people like it because back-to-backs, but it's incredibly hard to plan for your draft because you don't know what you're getting first. And in a slow draft, it kind of works because you get time. Like, you can kind of not plan. You have your ideas of what goes around what. But when it comes down to your pick, you just kind of look around, see what's gone, and kind of start building from there. So, but it was just fortunate enough that he got what he wanted, and he has had success with weather in the past with T-Tar Excadrill, and did really, really well with it. So, one of the coolest things I see about this team isn't so much what the team can do. It's what I look at this team and I see the WPL. You know what I mean? Like, I see a lot of these things on this team, and I go, Mamoswine, I remember, was in the spotlight in Season 1. Klefki was in Season 2, I think it was. Did really well. Umbreon has been a staple every season.
Yeah.
Rotom Fan just was one of the fan favorites last season. Just very unexpectedly drafted by me last season. I think I got it last overall. not last overall, but last round I grabbed it because I knew nobody was looking at it. But
Right.
it just went off. It just did really, really well, and
True.
it was actually my kill leader on a team with Glacier. Can you believe that?
Well, you did kind of give away that you almost never brought Glacier.
I think I brought it half the games. In the 4 weeks, I think I brought it 4 times, or brought it and didn't use it. So I think it came and didn't get
Right.
used. But I see a lot of fun things. Scraggy, I remember had for all my WPL members
Oh,
that
yeah.
Scraggy was a
season.
fan favorite. Yeah, it was just. It almost KO'd, like it started KOing things that definitely had no business KOing. It was a lot of fun. So I see this team and I just kind of smile because it just reminds me of the history since we started. We haven't been around a long time, but I think we're a little over a year in with 5 seasons starting
Yes.
up right now, our 5th season. So I just kind of smile, except for Dust Noir. That thing needs to die. When he picked that thing, I was just like, "What do you?" Okay.
This is how you know that I was talking to Vitor and Jay wasn't,
hate it.
because
I hate
Dustbar
it.
was my idea.
Why? But hey, you know what? We wouldn't really be an unbiased source if we didn't get into some of the synergy on this team. So, Klefki obviously being the screen setter, prankster is very cool with Rain Dance. I think one of the things he wanted on this team was a Swift Swim user, and just didn't end up getting it. So that might actually be in the cards for a free agent move. Who knows? But I know that Umbreon is probably going to be the core when it comes to just support and defensive wall on both sides of the spectrum, defense and special defense. But obviously you have the Sun with Chlorophyll, Venusaur, and Solar Power Heliolisk. I thought that was a really cool move for his last move at the draft. It just kind of like added an extra mode. And it also, Heliolisk having the support that it does with E-Web and Eerie Impulse and things like that is, I thought it was a really cool move, and it didn't add too much when it came to weaknesses and overlap.
Yeah, I would say also a cool thing. You mentioned the support potential and the offense potential. What would suck if you're running a Sun mode is if you are on Focus Sash and you're losing HP due to the
Sun,
Sun
yeah.
being up, and you're not getting that much use of the extra damage. You could keep your Focus Sash intact with. Well, okay, if you're going Sun, you can't go Dry Skin because the Sun will damage you. But a
Yep.
big counter to Sun is Rain. So we do also have a couple of Rain teams. You could always go Dry Skin, adding. Not only does Heliolisk not really add to already existing weaknesses, in particular, you've got a potential water immunity with Dry Skin.
Which is so valuable. Like, I think any immunity or absorb moves or abilities, Storm Drain I see as well. Flash Fire is always really cool. I think those are very, very undervalued abilities, and just completely eliminating a type of a move off of somebody else's. It just gives so much more. So I think immunities are just always, and not to mention with the normal type on Heliolisk gives you a ghost immunity as well. So very, very cool things. If there was one thing, I know he really wanted a nice ground type and he got it in Mamoswine, but I do think that Gastrodon is a really cool mon. I think Gastrodon can potentially be moved because I don't think, like, Storm Drain's a really cool ability, but really the only thing you're supporting is your Torkoal that has the Sun up already for the most part, unless it's changed. So you're already getting a 50% decrease on those water attacks. And Mamoswine, like, okay, I guess. But I just think in the B tier, you can definitely make a move. And in my opinion, knowing Vitor as well, having experience with Darmanitan, I can see that being just swap in, swap out, or swap out, swap in with Darmanitan. I can see it being very, very strong, especially in a Sun mode with 140 attack, stab, Flare Blitz. I think could just be so much damage on this team.
I love power. So already in support of that, but even like in the non-Dynamax format, like, all right, the damage output from Darmanitan's base 140 power already crazy. You have Flare Blitz base 120 power, really friggin' strong. Then you get a Life Orb boost, but it has a 10% chance to burn. So then you have the Sheer Force boost.
Yeah.
Adding a Sun boost on top of that.
Wow.
Mama. Over.
So Vitor, send me that move before before Sunday because I have the power to make the move without your approval anyway. So no, I'm not gonna do that. But no, a very very cool thing, and another thing too. We have one more team to go with the YCL after this, and then we're gonna go into the power rankings. But all of these moves are all just what we would do. Just me and Octo, what we would do if we were running these teams. And the cool thing about Draft League is watching the different play styles. And I almost love watching Draft League more than I love playing Draft League, just because I like watching what people put together and concoct with rosters. Seeing synergy I didn't see before. I never thought I would see a special Cinderace. And here we are.
Yeah. Fair. I didn't imagine I'd ever play it. That wasn't on my...
It was every week you brought it, almost. Like,
I know!
He's not going to do that again, and then he just brings it again. But no, that's very, very cool. So I'm actually looking at the Weather Wars because we see a handful of weather teams. I count 3 and this one as well, which brings us to actually the last team and another weather team as well. Another Sun Mode. Arts actually stepped in as the coach of this team. I know that Rager Bonsai was going to represent, but Arts actually stepped in just so the owner of the league didn't have to play. So Arts being a very, very good player, I saw his resume. It was really impressive. I noticed this team doesn't really have a slow mode. And I asked you this earlier, and I want to ask you this again. Is it a problem?
So with this team, you do have Imprison with Xatu. There's a lot of disruption with the Sableye, which can be a positive. One of the things that people don't like about Vileplume when comparing Vileplume and Venusaur is Vileplume's base speed is a lot lower. Vileplume's not slow enough really to be a Trick Room sweeper, but I don't know, maybe there's something there. At least if you want to really catch somebody by surprise, Trick Room Xatu sweep with Vileplume. I don't know, maybe okay, hear me out.
Hear me out again?
But like, so you Trick Room with Xatu and activates your room service, so then you're slow enough to go for a psychic or a flying move onto the Vileplume and activate Vileplume sweetness policy, who Dynamax and sweeps.
That's interesting. I never saw that. Stab psychic weakness policy activation.
I might not go for psychic because it has a chance to confuse.
Psychic I don't think does. Confusion does. Psychic does the special defense drop.
Oh, special defense. Well, you don't want that either. Yeah, true. There was a time, it was beginning of Series 6, I would Trick Room Copycat with Liepard and Slowking, and then I would Sucker Punch the Slowking. In like 6 matches, I crit myself 4 times. So yeah, if you're going to do something like a Fire Punch or a Psychic, and there's a 10% chance of things going wrong, it's already bad enough to crit yourself. You don't want to get a burn or a special defense drop, then you get KO'd easily. I wouldn't even want to deal with Confusion. Just avoid all that. Maybe Psyshock, Pluck, because you're not stealing a weakness policy. It's not a berry. You know what I mean? Just something that... Pluck even has utility, stealing your opponent's berries. So, I don't know. If that was a plan, I just realized what I blurted out. Arts, I would like to personally apologize to you if this was something you already had planned.
If you guessed that I would be absolutely impressed. I get DMs. Yo, what are you doing? No, but you know, it's funny that you mentioned that because like I was actually thinking expensive weakness policy procs.
Yeah.
We've all done them. I think I just thought of an idea as well. Like, you know, like Dragapult Colossal and things like that, you use Surf, and Dragapult's special attack isn't exactly low. So a lot of people, they take the IVs out, take the EVs out, negative nature.
Hmm.
Could you imagine you're just like, I can't stop him from getting Surf off, but it's gonna cost him, and you fake Tears the Colossal.
Oh, I love that. I live for that kind of stuff.
It's just like, what did it cost? Like that meme with Thanos. It's like, what did it cost you? Everything.
Yeah.
No. So when it comes to the actual team itself, we see the Sun mode. I think
Hmm.
Gmax Charizard with the residual damage from the wildfire damage is just so strong, and you just see Landorus Therian just sitting up top, just in the free slots. Like Landorus Therian is one of the most broken Pokemon. People were really upset when it was actually entered in like brought into Sword and Shield, because they're like, well, let's go back to Landorus just dominating the meta, right, and on the VGC
Yeah.
ladder. And I feel like it's been there. It hasn't been on every single team. Like obviously Incense had more of an impact,
Hmm.
and you see a lot more Rillaboom now. But Landorus T, like, very very scary mon. And there is a little bit of an element of it's coming, so you just bring Ice Shard, or Icy Wind does about 50% to it for the most part, unless it's a really weak Icy Wind,
Right.
with that 4 times weakness. So there are counters to it. I just think Gmax Charizard is very very cool. A couple different ways to set the sun, with Drought on the Ninetales and Prankster Sunny Day on the Sableye. But
Mhm.
if there was one move I would make on this team, like I look at a few different things and I could see moves, but I also see how they could be used. I know you love
Yeah,
Chansey. I'd probably
I
get rid of
do.
Chansey because I'm not a big Chansey guy.
I think
Um,
it's harder to justify Chansey in a Dynamax format, but also this team doesn't fully have a Trick Room mode, which can also make it a bit harder. Like the most iconic Chansey Shuckle teams of Series 8 generally involve Indeedee Female and Hatterene.
mhm.
That's with Dynamaxing, to be fair, also, it should be said. So that's an example of a more successful Chansey Shuckle team. But yeah, I think it's a bit harder to pull that off with without a more committed trick room mode.
Mhm.
So I can see Chansey being dropped as well. But I mean, if you wanted to, uh, oh, you said Shuckle was B tier, right?
I believe it is.
Oof. Okay,
So
yeah.
you'd have to drop your Como O or something, or see where the free
Mm,
points fit. I just think it'd be really expensive to get it onto this roster, but I do see Como O. You don't see a lot of physical attackers on this team. Like, yes, you have
right.
Lycanroc and Stonejourner and Lando and things like that. Physical Charizard's a thing. Just saying, gets belly drum and all that fun stuff. Don't
Uh,
do it. I've never
rem,
seen it
rem,
work.
we did see it attempted.
Yeah, we saw it attempted and it just died. I think the message in the DMs were, please don't attack Charizard.
Yeah.
But so that was a lot of fun. But if I were to make one move, and this might be a little bit of a hear me out, but Bolton is not exactly one of the most sought after mons when it comes
Oh,
to.
well, it depends on the draft league.
It depends on the draft league for sure, but I think any ground type next to Bolton with that really fast Electrify, turning all moves from the targeted Pokemon into electric moves. Um, pair it next to any ground type, especially if you're expecting a ice type attack, and usually you're not going to double an ice attack on your side of the field into a Lando. Usually it's one of
Right.
the two or something, or liquidation or things like that. So turning that one move into electric and just being completely immune to it, I think could just enable your Lando a little bit more, and it's only a C tier pick too, so you can drop any of your, like, you can drop Chansey if you wanted to, you can drop Stonejourner, you can drop Lycanroc, things like that,
Hmm.
and I think would add quite a bit. And as fast as it is, I think it can definitely snarl spam and things like that, and I just think it'd be really cool. And you're actually the one that brought Bolton's attention to a lot of us in the WPL. So that's one of the reasons why I think it's
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah, you were all laughing at first.
I
Well, not
drafted it for you.
everybody.
You gave me the list, and I'm like, are you sure?
It was round two, by the way. I really wanted Boltons. Like,
And it worked
consequences be
really
damned.
well. It worked
Yeah.
really well. Like it was such a problem. I think you even Dynamaxed it once after a
I
competitive boost.
I know I did that in testing, and I was OKOing like max bulk Arcanines with just max lightning. So, uh, I think competitive could be good for this team. The special attackers, I'd say overall, are more impressive than the physical attackers, so Intimidate isn't necessarily as much of a problem, but I mean, who doesn't love a good snarl into a team of special attackers, right? So,
Oh yeah,
um,
snarl spam, yeah.
yeah, normally you don't Dynamax Boltons, but you do have the option. There was one week also, Strongjaw and Bolton's base attack don't make for a really impressive attacking set, but I mean, if your opponent's entire team is weak to Psychic and Dark and Electric, like you got an extra option. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's just one of the many moves. I think we were looking at in the free agents at this team, and I think there's so much you can add because the core is just so nice, and that's why it's so important to get a really nice core. I think the Rotom Wash here, the Sun Mode, Lando, and then you have the Sableye. I think that is so much to build around. I think this was a really, really good job early in the draft and just kind of went a different way later, which I think is really cool. Again, having the solar power and the chlorophyll on this team, just like we did on the WPL's draft, is a really cool draft strat. So very, very good job by Arts. Looking forward to seeing all 16 of these teams in action. It's really nice to kind of see how people drafted and things like that, and how they all kind of came together as the draft went along. So I want to thank all the players. Like, we still have the power rankings to go, which we'll get into, but I just want to say a special thanks to all the players. I know the draft took a little while, but I just want to say thank you for helping it go smoothly. Like, obviously the only issue in the entire draft was just some of the wait times because guys are busy with their lives and things like that. One guy was traveling for an entire day. So that's never easy for anyone that just travel for work. Yeah, so thank you everybody for making the draft a success. I can't wait to get the season started, and I actually can't wait to get into these power rankings actually. So we've got 5 tiers here, and I was gonna put a number on all of them, but it would just make it look not good, you know? So I'm just gonna, so the higher pillars here is better than the other one in our minds. Let's just say that. So there's no numbers, but you see which one's obviously higher and lower and things like that. So you actually, I did my top 5 originally and sent them to you and said, hey, this is what I think. Do you agree? And there was one that actually wasn't on this list that we're about to do that you kind of convinced me of. And the first team we're going to talk about in our number 5 slot is the VDL, Victory Draft League. And the more we looked at it when we were talking about the actual teams themselves now, I was starting to like it more and more as we were going over it just now. Like having things like that PZ with adaptability. You have Tornadus Therian with Tailwind, Morgrem for setting screens and just being a pain, Primarina, Weavile, you know, you got a justified strat with the Arcanine. That's not giving away too much. I really, really like this team. And like I said before we started, I think that there are no bad teams. Like, I think the worst team, like if we had to pick one, was like, yeah, I'd probably make 2 moves on this team, you know? And it doesn't even mean the team is bad. It was just, yeah, I'd probably make a couple. You know, there might be some synergy we don't know about. But so these top 5, we just think they're a cut above the rest when it comes to rosters alone. Who knows? Like, some of these top 5 teams might finish near the bottom of the standings at the end of the season, right? So we'll see how this goes. But any comments other than what you made on the VDL, or any really, why did this make your top 5, Octo?
I think before I took a really hard look at VDL, in fairness, I should mention, I believe it was Gumi who said that this team has a lot of power on it. Yeah. And a few days later, I looked at the team in more detail, and yeah, Porygon Z jumped out immediately, Dragalge jumped out immediately, Primarina jumped out immediately, Geico, Weavile, Tyrantrum, and especially with the way I normally play VGC in general outside of Draft League, I like hyper offense. I want to hit hard. I want to hit fast. I want the game done. Not because I don't like playing. I just mean, like, you know, high octane, high excitement, high drama. And this team just has a lot of damage to deal out across many different types.
Yep.
And I feel that all the pieces are there to allow the hard hitters to get the speed control they need, to get the extra cushion they need with screens. So I think having that raw power, but then also a way to augment it, that's just, for me, the makings of a really strong team.
Yep. Like you can throw a bunch of all-star Pokemon on the same team, but if they don't have the support they need for success, they're just not going to do well. So I think this team is a good balance of really strong Pokemon and the support that they need, reliable support that they need too. Like you could sit there and say, "Oh, I've got Trick Room," and your only option is, I don't know, Galarian Articuno for a Trick Room setter. It's just like, okay, you've got it, but like I think you really need a reliable way of setting up what you need to set up. So I think Colopsia. Let me know if I'm pronouncing that wrong, but Colopsia, I think did a fantastic job drafting this team. So very, very good job getting top 5 in our books. Next, I'm actually going to say TGR would have the next best roster in my mind. A lot of these were really, really hard to split, like which one's above. In our opinion, we think the number 1 is clearly the number 1, but I'd say 2 through 4. I think they could be any order whatsoever in our books.
I would say 2 through 5, but we are allowed to have a difference of opinion.
Oh, 2 through 5. Sorry, did I say 4? I guess
Yeah.
There's 4 of them, but it's ranking 2 through 5. So I said the wrong word. The game room, they definitely did a great job drafting this team. Starmie was definitely a steal that was in the D tier that a lot of people were saying they were shocked it was in the D tier, and Pat Max scooped it up. And I think Starmie is really good as well. I think I actually looked into it because we haven't really seen Starmie do incredibly well in the WPL, which is probably why it was.
We haven't really seen Starmie. I mean, yes, Starmie was drafted, but I didn't see Starmie do much. I was in a tournament for people on a different server. Believe it was Series 6, and one of them had like a really cool Starmie team. But that's really all we've seen from doubles. Now singles, I watched that video from False Swipe Gaming. How good was Starmie actually? And oh my God, Starmie is an OU every single generation.
Yep.
What?
Yeah,
That's
it's
amazing.
a fast, bulky, great coverage. A lot of really good support in VGC format as well. I'm surprised it hasn't been used in the WPL. So hopefully this is showcased in a way that, just in case other leagues haven't really used it as well, they kind of see the potential of this thing, and good of Pat Mac to scoop it up in the D tier. But it's funny that the first thing we mentioned was Starmie on a team of all-stars. Like I see, again, with the justified strat, with the beat-up Sneasel, with the Gallade, is really cool. Incin is always just one of the best draft league Pokemon there are.
Just
Alchemy.
Pokemon. One of the best Pokemon. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool cat for sure. Mudsdale, actually, is one of my favorite draft league Pokemon, actually. There have been scenarios where this thing is unkillable. With its stamina ability boosting its defense whenever it's touched. And that's from physical and special moves as well. So it's not like those abilities that only trigger based on contact. Any move whatsoever that hits this Mudsdale, it gets a +1 defense. And Stab Quake, Max Quake, boosts its special defense, weakness policy. All this thing, just bring haze against this thing is my opinion. That's all I would say. Bring some sort of stat clearing thing, because this thing gets a lot of them, and in a lot of situations is unkillable. So very, very cool thing on this team. I see a lot of modes. I see a lot of potential, and I'm really looking forward to seeing this team kind of go off. So we'll see how Pat Mac uses it. As for the third team we have here, Great Lakes Draft League. First of all, one of the coolest logos that were sent to me. Would you agree?
Well, it's all water Pokemon. Hard for me not to like. I also personally appreciate when logos have other shapes than just circles. That's not to say I don't like circle-shaped draft logos, but for the variety to also have many which don't fit into that, I find that quite appealing. So, yeah, I am a fan.
So the Great Lakes Draft League, I remember when we both went over this team, we just had nothing but good things to say about it. Like, I think the last thing we mentioned was Milotic, and it's one of the best things on this team, and we went through all the other really cool things this team can do, and Milotic was just like, oh, and there's Milotic. you know, because it's just that good. We see a lot of synergy. We have a reliable Trick Room setter in Masharna. We have a reliable Trick Room sweeper in SCAV. You have fast mode like crazy with the Coco, synergy with the Lipard, Diggersby. We see Tailwind with Aerodactyl. This team just has so many modes for it not to make this top 5. What's your favorite thing about this team? We obviously went over it in detail, but what's your favorite thing about this team that you think is just going to be the most beneficial for it?
Yes.
I love that answer.
I feel the energy coming all the way over here. Regidrago was like the first thing that popped in my head. I haven't really seen Regidrago used much in Draft League, but I think there's a lot of potential there. With support from Aerodactyl and from Musharna, I think there's some options. The disruption from Lipard and Persian could also prove to be quite beneficial. So yeah, I want to see what Regidrago will do. I know what Regidrago can do. And Tangles, yeah, there's a lot of support to allow Regidrago to thrive. Diggersby is also Diggersby and Persian I'm just personally really attached to.
Season 1.
Yeah, also true. Persian was my stand-in for Butterfree in the finals, by the way. Persian was my finale Butterfree. No, I didn't run Hypnosis, though.
And it's got a Kickbird.
Yeah, the OG. Jury's out on if you can pants Blaziken or not. If the answer is no, definitely OG Kickbird. Come on, look at those legs. And Blaze Kick, first like signature kick move, I think. But yeah, I would like to see Haze for Diggersby. But like, yeah, so good. I think, yeah, I'm just excited to see what Regidrago will do, and I think this team has the support to make that work. So that's probably my number one thing.
Yep. Yeah, we can go on quite a while about these teams, and I just see so much synergy on this roster. So definitely a reason why it made top 3. So top 2, the EDDL also had a really nice standout roster as well, with the Metagross being the center of this team, having reliable redirection in Togetic, not to mention Riolu for coaching strats and things like that. So we see a little bit of a rain mode with the Barraskewda as well, and Tornadus Incarnate, anytime that thing makes an appearance on a team, with Defiant and Prankster, just having such a really, really nice ability spread that you can use in multiple weeks. Like your Barraskewda and your Marowak can be intimidated. Well, you know, if you decide to run Prankster Riolu, you can go Defiant Tornadus, and that thing gets coverage. It gets okay coverage on the physical side, not fantastic, but on the special side, with 125 special attack, can just go crazy with its coverage. So very, 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 very cool team. I don't know, again, I think 2, 3, 4, 5 on this list could be in any order, but we'll eventually get to the number 1 that we have nothing but amazing things to say about it. But any last before we put this these 2, 3, 4, 5 to bed? Lurantis.
Yeah. I think Lurantis is a good fit for this team as well. So I don't know if I said anything about Sock. I think Sock is actually a nice fit on this team, even next to Riolu. Getting 2 fighting types. They can play totally differently. And the only thing I would change probably about the team is getting rid of Metagross, but that's not because Metagross isn't an amazing fit here, because it is. I know it. We all know it. But, well, okay, I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody. I expect everyone would say that it's good. I don't like Metagross. I just... But I gotta admit, this team looks really strong in general, and if you're only worried about Metagross, like, you've got some problems coming your way. So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, really I can see this team. I can see this team being really, really sneaky with a lot of stuff it can do. So looking forward to seeing what EM Burst does with this roster as well. But to us, when we saw this number 1 team, we thought this one was the best. It might not have the sexiest Pokemon on the list as well, but
Well, some would argue Tapu Fini.
oh my goodness. The UGA, we looked at this team, and I think both you and I, our eyes just kind of lit up. And this is a team that we can both have a lot of fun playing. I see double Intimidate users. I see a lot of physical attacks, 2 Tailwind setters, reliable Trick Room setters, Prankster Fake Tiers on the Purloin. I see Fake Out. I see Ghost. I just see so many things. And I think this team is I wouldn't say it's like by leaps and bounds, but I would say this one, there wasn't any question this was number 1 in my books.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I would never do something like say this is an automatic win against any other team, for example. But it just came so naturally and easily, and that might even be a bit of a negative if it's that easy to see. But I don't know, it jumped out immediately. Like, this team has Tailwind. This team doesn't have a lot of competition for Eviolite or Focus Sash, but has like fast support. Like, Torracat can use Eviolite, even though like Torracat can be more like fast support. So that's not really competing with the Den. But you could also just very easily go for Focus Sash on Torracat if you need the Eviolite on Porygon too. Prankster, like Fake Tiers and Charm, Fake Out on the same Pokemon who gets all that is really good. Mienshao does a lot, usually has 4-move syndrome. Like, I don't know, it just feels like this team should feel like he's got a chance no matter who he's facing. I mean, in general, that's true, but like, the other team, on the other hand, like, I don't know what kind of team you could have to look at this team and be like, oh, I think I've got a favorable matchup here. Not to say that your matchup is going to be bad, but I feel like it's probably going to be like, well, it depends. And this is a hard Trick Room team. This is a really aggressive team. This is a bulky offense team. This is a stall team. Like, this team, I don't know, you can't have like a solidly positive matchup with any archetype. That's how it feels looking at it anyway.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to prep against this team. Let's just say that. Like, what do? Do you go fast? Do you go slow? Do you like what coverage do you bring? Like, it's like maybe knockoff would be good. You got to deal with that P2, the Finny. You can't use status effects in the Misty terrain unless it's elevated. Things like that. So there's a lot of moving pieces on this roster, and I think this roster is probably the one to beat in my books when it comes to the UGA's team and Tay. So this was a lot of fun, actually, going through all of these rosters. I knew this is what I wanted to do. One of the first videos that I wanted us to do, not so much a video, it's more of a listen, because we have just very few graphics and just floating GIFs on the screen. Yeah, I'm really glad we did this. Thank you, Octo, for giving your expertise. I think you had a lot to offer when it came to what the teams can do that I wasn't thinking about. And hopefully people listening, they learned a little bit as well about what synergy is there with undervalued and underused Pokemon as well, and also other fun ways you can use your favorites as well. So hopefully this was really helpful. Thank you everyone for listening. Hit like if you liked it, hit subscribe if you really liked it, and tell all your friends, and tune in for the next episode of the MGU, whatever this is called. Peace.
It's the big leagues, Dynamax the ears if you can't hear me. The players that made it, they can't be forsaken, they hop in the black with me.